Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, man. So to clear up the quick question I saw someone asked, we are not doing any writing on this live stream. This is just our monthly AuthorTube chat. But I do know that is Kevin hosting at this time? I think Kevin and Laura are doing a live write-in this evening sometime. So if you want write-in time, it'll be here. Not here, over there. But
I'm like, did you just ask me on the spot if it was Kevin on Kevin's channel or Laura's channel? Holy cannoli, I can't talk. English is hard. Anyway, I think it is on Kevin's channel this week.
Okay.
And it's at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
So in an hour and a half from now.
See, so perfect. Who knows? By then we might have been done talking. Probably not knowing us, but we might be.
Who knows?
All right. I'm seeing so many people in the chat. Hello, guys.
Hello, friends.
Also, 6 a.m. where Frasier is. That's crazy.
That must mean they like you.
Yeah, I know. Or they just want to start out with some good writing. Oh, look, there's Laura telling us it's on Kevin's channel.
Laura coming in with the clutch.
Thank you.
Taking care of business.
Yeah. Well, all right. As the title suggests, Jessica and I will be talking about burnout, when to take breaks, and write-a-thon recovery. And we're defining write-a-thon as literally anything from like Camp NaNoWriMo, 24 and 36, 10K writing days, whatever. We both experience frequently, I think, the kind of post-blank hangover. So
yes.
Let us know we're not alone if y'all experience it too.
Right, because camp was extreme. There was a lot of different, I think we did 2 12-hour write-a-thons plus a 12-hour sprint relay plus a 10K day.
Yes.
Plus it was a nano month plus.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, it felt crazy. Like it was a lot of fun, but I actually felt the like hangover portion coming on even before the month was over. Like I was just exhausted.
I should have tried harder like you to get done early, because when there was like 5 days left in the month, plus with everything else going on, I was just like, at that point, I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done for the month. I didn't hit my goal and I don't care. I'm done.
Yes. But you did so good though.
I did better than I've ever done before in a camp, but I could have done better. Like I know that I wasted some time, so.
Yeah. But then, I mean, yeah, we did so much stuff. I do see someone is participating in their first 10K weekend. I think. I can't find where someone said that, but I thought I read it.
Pericula?
Yes.
Perhaps that's the name?
That's the one I saw. So do we want to talk first about like maybe how to go into these kind of things, write-a-thons? Or do we just want to talk about recovery from, since that's technically more the topic?
Whatever the people want to hear.
Yeah, what do the people want to talk about with this? Because I do see, like, we'll answer Jacob is here's question is, the burnout is real. How long does it take for you guys to recover? Which is a phenomenal question. I think each is different. So let's go ahead and talk about Camp NaNoWriMo first, since that was most recent.
I think the last camp that we did, I had a 2-week break after the last camp. Now this time, if you are a subscriber of my channel, you will notice that there has been no videos all month. I have not been on social media. I've not been on the computer. I've not done anything all month. So I have taken the entire month off of writing as well. But this month is kind of an anomaly. So I think the last camp, it was like 2 weeks that I took off. But I also wasn't as stressed at the end of last camp as I was this camp. But again, there was a lot more going on this time. So I don't know. It should not have been 2 weeks, but it was. And that was just me being lazy.
I don't know, because I feel like For NaNoWriMo maybe not last year, but I feel like for the NaNoWriMos, it usually does take me like 2 weeks to feel normal again. Like for the drive to write to be fully restored. Because like I'll be functioning like 10%, 25% wanting to write the same amount, and like eventually it gets back up there. But I do think it takes that 2 weeks, which sounds crazy because the month itself is only like 4.5 weeks or something. But
I'm trying to read the comments too. Emma Rains, we are not doing sprints today. We're just doing chats. FYI, for anybody that had to watch an ad at the beginning of the video, because I had the video pulled up at the same time, and while you were discussing that we're just chatting, we're not doing sprints, the ad was playing.
Oh, okay.
Whoops. Because you have ads now, you need to watch out for that, Kate. Gosh.
Sorry.
Fired. Anyway. And what else?
Well,
I believe it's Matilda wants to know what the ideal daily number of words are for you.
Oh, I don't see that question. For writing, it depends. Sometimes I work more by like finishing a scene or finishing a chapter or something. Like I like to have those kind of goals almost more than I do a word count goal. But if I get over 2,000, I feel like I've had a solid day.
I don't have a set number of words that I want to do in a day because I don't get to write every day. So typically any day that I write more than 1,000 words, I'm like, today was an excellent day. Now, I don't know what video, whose chat, I don't even remember what I was watching, but people were talking about like their average words a day was like 10,000, and that's like on a regular day, and I don't even know how. Like I couldn't do that every day. Like there's no way I could do that. Well, that's just me. Derek wants to know, do you think preparation going in affects burnout afterward?
I think that's a great question. And also if you should prep. I think that actually for me, sometimes like when I do Camp NaNoWriMo prep and NaNoWriMo prep, it feels like it's more elongating the actual event, which I think adds to some amount of burnout for me. Does that make sense? Like it makes the project feel longer. So then my post-project finishing needs to also be longer. And I feel like it shouldn't be that way, but that's how it is.
I try to do all of my prep stuff in the first 2 weeks of the month prior. Mm-hmm. And then I'll still work on stuff, but not necessarily that book in the 2 weeks before. And I think that helps keep it from feeling like you've been working on it forever. Having a little bit of space in between the two. So I know to be prepared early so that you don't fall in.
Yeah. Well, because the other side of that, is that if you don't prep, I feel like during the camps in NaNoWriMo, if I get behind, or any write-a-thon, any version of it, if I get behind, my will to motivate myself immediately goes down. So like if I'm already struggling to keep up, it's like the odds that I'm like, go way up. Which isn't good, which isn't what I want. So I feel like there is some amount of prep work I need. I know for me, I'm actually going to take all of Preptober, that I'm going to be like working here and there on select days to prep. So I'm hoping that it's like, it won't feel like a month of prep, but only certain days maybe. I don't know. We're going to play with it.
I have zero idea what's going to be going on in October, but I do know that my plan for camp is to work on the project that I was working on during the last 2 camps. So the Princess's Guard story, which is like the futuristic, but feels like it's a historic story that's in my brain. Yeah. And then the witch boarding school that I worked on during this camp. I'm going to work on both of those because I still haven't I don't have a finished first draft of either. So I'm going to work on those during November if I have the opportunity to do so.
Yes. I'm very excited for your stories. So.
Me too. I need to write those things. One of these years when I have a minute. Emo Introvert says, should I use writing prompts to help get back into writing in my main stories consistently? I feel like that can definitely help if you're having issues with creativity. I think writing prompts can kind of help you get your creativity working again, and then it can give you ideas to bounce off of in your actual story versus whatever writing prompt you're working on.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. I am curious, do you think when experiencing burnout, do you think it's better to like push through or maybe use those writing prompts or do something to try and get back into it? Or is it better for you to just like let the burnout run its course and then get back into it? Do you know what I mean?
I think it depends on the person, for one. And it also depends on the type of person you are. Because some people will let the burnout flounder forever.
Yes.
And other people will let the burnout happen for a few days and then go, okay, I need to get back to work. So I should do some kind of creativity boosting thing so that I can get back into writing. Yeah. So I think it's kind of just a
know thyself.
In the same vein as that, Carol asks, what do you do as active recovery for burnout?
You know, I'm one of those people because I just really love, like, I'm one of the types where it's like, as soon as I can write, I will write again. I don't really let myself live in the burnout zone for longer than I feel like I need to. So like I take that time full off from writing, but that's actually when I get my most amount of like reading done. I binge TV shows. I think it's similar to me for like refilling my creative well. And like I feel like these write-a-thons tend to like deplete that well. So then I need to fill it back up with stories that aren't mine. I just need to consume all the things.
And that was Jacob's question. Do you guys think reading after a big write-a-thon is a good way to fill your creativity back up?
Yes, Jacob.
Yeah. I personally it depends on the story. Like the only book I've read this month was The Winter Sister by Megan Collins, which is like an adult thriller mystery type story. And I've been trying to read the second book in the Remnant Chronicles, which is a high fantasy. And my brain is too mush to keep up with it and to enjoy it. So like the thriller was good because there wasn't like a lot to piece together. It was kind of just like, you're just kind of reading through it and things are happening. Whereas with something where a whole world is created, you need to pay attention to what's going on to catch everything. So I feel like at this moment in time in the burnout, I could do like light, fluffy contemporaries and maybe some mysteries, but I can't do fantasy right now. Like it's not happening.
That's such a good point because I feel like that usually at the end of even just a normal day, where I just want to watch dumb reality TV where it's like I'm turning my brain off as opposed to like a, intense rooting for the show where it's like I have to pay attention. I feel like it's a similar kind of thing.
It's the difference between like sitting down and watching HGTV or sitting down and watching like a serial show where you have to have known what happened in the last 6 seasons so that you can figure out what's going to happen in the next 6 seasons.
Yes.
I can watch somebody rebuild a house in an hour and pay attention to that. But if I have to know what's been going on for 12 years, it's over.
You're out. Yeah, Jessica and I were talking about our shared love of HGTV before the live started. So y'all should also let us know what you guys like to watch when you're in your chill mode. You're like, I'm paying attention, but I'm like not really paying attention.
But not really. Okay, I lost where I was at in the chat because it jumped and I'm very angry about it. So I'm trying to find where I'm at. Okay, cool. Anyway.
I see. So Brooke, hi Brooke. Brooke's saying burnout is happening for both my writing and my channel right now. which I feel. Tay Buggy says, I recover from burnout by taking a few days and then working on my novel in other ways. Plotting, doodling covers, Pinterest boards, etc. Thinking about it without actually writing until I can. Oh, that's probably a more productive way to deal with a burnout or recover. I usually just try and think about anything else. Like, I don't let my brain go there.
Jody Cooper asks, do you have any advice for someone who is going to seriously attempt Nano for the first time this year?
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. I always say get involved in some way, just because I feel like for me, I know I have certain days where I struggle to push through, and it's always the people around me also participating that tend to help me a lot. Also, it's okay to like try and aim for a different amount of words than what the Nano goal is. Even though Nano's more serious about the 50K, like Jess, you've said that like that's just what we're gonna do. Yeah, and if you know that's true about yourself too, like I think for your first time, it's better to go into it like slightly lowering the expectation, and then if you exceed it, it's even more awesome, kind of thing.
You know, it's like everybody's different in the way that they write and how they're able to write. Some people, you know, don't have a job, or they're able to stay home, and so they have more time during the day to write. Some of us work a normal 40-hour job. Some people work a 60-hour job, and you can't compare yourself to everyone else. Some people have familial obligations that others don't have, and so you just have to do what you can do. And I think you can feel, I typically feel like at the end of the month, my decision on whether I did good or not depends more on if I can look back and think, how much time did I spend doing something else when I could have been writing and getting more words, versus how many words did I actually get done? Because if there's not a lot of time where I could have crammed in more words, if I was actively working on it as much as possible, then I'm like, okay, well, I did what I could do. I mean, there's no more hours in the day. You can't make more time.
Yeah.
So then I feel okay about it. But, you know.
I just read, so today I'm doing the, like, I tried writing like Brandon Sanderson experiment, and I was just reading his pep talk he did for NaNoWriMo way back in 2011. And he made a good point about, what did he call it? Consistency versus burst writers. So the people who write every day forever, and then the burst writers who think about a story for a long time and wait until it's like it all just comes out. And he said that NaNoWriMo can work for both types of people. So like the consistent writers, if you're already writing every day, like Nano's a great time to try and bump that up a little bit for an amount of time to see if you can go. And then the burst writing, it's like kind of the same thing as Jess was saying, where it's like figuring out what times of the day, like how much time can I dedicate to writing today, and like kind of make a habit out of it. So I always say, if you can do a goal that's not the word count goal for NaNoWriMo or camp or any of them, that way if you don't achieve the 50K, as long as you achieved your personal goal of like, I wrote this kind of genre for the first time, or I did 30 minutes a day, like that way you're still succeeding and you have something to measure against that's like your own personal set thing.
I think the other thing was, whoo, you froze there for a second.
Just left.
I thought, no, wait. Are you there? Can you see me?
I said that and then just froze again. No.
I think we're having some technical difficulties, friends.
Yes.
Because on the screen for camp, or on the screen for camp, because I'm reading comments at the same time. On the screen on YouTube, you are freezing, not me.
Oh, no. It's me that's the problem.
Oh.
All right. Well, we're going to hope it's over.
Give it a second. Let it make up its mind.
Yeah.
I think we're good now. I think it was just like a very slight interruption.
That's
like
what we need to take a break on you guys. That's what's happening.
Like, take a breather, guys. Now I lost the comment I was on.
I see that Shannon is asking specifically, how do you avoid burnout during NaNoWriMo? Which is a great question.
There is no answer. You don't have time. You don't have time to be burnt out.
I think that's what it is too. That's why I feel like the post NaNoWriMo hangover is so real, is because during NaNoWriMo, it's like you're just chugging along because you have to chug along. So
that's why the burnout happens, because you were already burnt out like on week 3 and you pushed through week 4 anyway. And then it's all bad. So,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're saying that with smiles though, because Nano's worth it.
Right. Absolutely. Everyone should do it. Do you think the Pomodoro technique helps prevent burnout? You've used that. I have not. So
yes. Well, yes, I use it. I don't know that it actually helps prevent burnout. I think if you were the type to like have sat all day and like stared at the screen, no matter if you were actually writing or getting words in, and just counted that time and that contributed to your burnout, then I'm sure that would help. For me, it's nice because I don't get as distracted with other stuff, but I don't think it makes a difference on my story burnout or anything like that.
I don't necessarily use the Pomodoro technique, but I do time myself and do sprints when I write. And I have learned that is more productive for me, because I tell myself, like, after I do this 20-minute sprint, then I'll do XYZ. And so I focus for my 20 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever my sprint is, and then I'll go do whatever it is that I want to do. And I feel like that makes me more productive.
Do you think that like productivity and burnout have any kind of relationship? Like the more productive you are one month, do you feel like you have more burnout later? Oh, hello, puppy.
He's whining. Hi, honey. You go? Bye. Oh, wait. The cat. The dog, the cat.
No.
There she is.
Bernard.
I have a zoo. They're all here. No. Anyway. What was the question? Oh, more productivity means more burnout.
For you. Mm-hmm.
For me, I would, again, it's hard to tell, because like this month was my most productive, like last month was my most productive camp. And this has definitely been my worst month, but I think life has had more to do with that than the writing that I did. But I mean, I was crazy last month. Like I originally was posting a video about taking the month off, and I never posted it because my reasons for taking the month off completely changed at the beginning of the month. But in the month of July, I'm like, what month was that? I don't even know. So I'm doing my TBR takedown, which is me trying to read like 142 books this year or something stupid, plus camp, plus the reading rush and the AUTHORTUBE Bibliothon. So 2 readathons plus live sprints. I think I was in at least 10 live sprints this month. I hosted like 3 or 4, and I think it was at least 10. And that doesn't sound like a lot in a month, but that's like 1 every 3 days. I was posting 4 videos a week, plus social media, Twitter, Instagram, working a 50-hour work week. And towards the end of the month, my sister got sick, and I was doing grocery shopping and running my niece and making sure that they had food. So it was an interesting July, and it's continued on into August. So I don't know if the burnout is affected by all of that or not.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a lot, and I'm tired now. Still at the end of August. So
yes, that's what I remember. Just in July, halfway through, I was like, I'm so tired. And then I'd look over at your like next videos coming up and like, oh, she's on a live today too. And she's doing this. And I was just like, holy shit.
Who does that? Who thought that was a good idea? Me. And at the end of the month, I'm like, in November, I should do daily live sprints. Why would anybody ever think that was a good idea? I was like in a groove. I was like, you know what? I'm doing great. I should do daily live sprints in November because I'm handling this so well. And then the burnout happened.
Yeah.
And I haven't posted a video in like 4 weeks.
I think I find that I'm more often burnt out from doing YouTube and AuthorTube stuff than I am from writing. And it has nothing to do necessarily with like, because I enjoy it less, or I don't know what it is. I just find it more exhausting, I guess, than I do actually just writing. So the nano months in particular, you're combining all of those things. And I think that just takes it to an extra level. Let's see.
Excuse me, that was horrible, but I had to burp. Pericula asked, do you take writing weekends or days off or write every day?
Oh, so here's the thing. I have been trying for the better part of 2 months now to theoretically have weekends, and I just am not good at it. So no, I really don't take days off. So on any given day, I'm usually writing or doing some kind of video thing. I would love to get to a point where I have 1 day a week where I do literally nothing. But I haven't worked up to that point yet, partially because I genuinely love writing so much and I want to do it, but also because I'm a workaholic. So which I'm sure contributes to the burnout.
I have no writing, what's the word I'm looking for? Schedule, but not a schedule. You know what word I'm looking for? Routine. That's the word. I have a writing routine, but I am trying to build one last month and then next month as well. Again, I took this month off, so this month doesn't count. But I'm trying to write at least twice on weekdays and 4 hours a day on Saturday and Sunday, which doesn't sound like a lot, but with everything that's going on, it's a lot. So
yes.
Try. Greg Fry says, I think you should still do the daily sprints of November. Listen, I will say, it still sounds like a really awesome idea, and I will still honestly consider it. With a little bit of backstory, because I feel like I can give you a little bit of backstory. My sister has been really sick, and she has had to have surgeries, and just there's a bunch of health stuff going on, and she's not able to do anything. She can't lift more than 5 pounds. So she's living with us right now, her and her 12-year-old daughter. And so I'm taking care of her, and there may be more surgeries and things coming up in the future. So I have no idea what my life is like day to day right now. So planning November right now is a little complicated because I can't plan this weekend.
Yeah.
So a lot of running around right now. And that's the reason why I ultimately decided to take the month off, because it was just, I was like, just deal with her, get her healthy, get her working, and just the internet can wait. So
the internet can wait.
Gonna try to get back to videos in September, but who knows? Athena's got it. Preteen. Sorry, Jess. You've got it. She's 12, and she is. Right now, she's at cheerleading practice, so she's great because she's not here staring at me.
That's what I was telling Jess, that those were like, I know those were my worst years. So I just can't even imagine.
It was so bad. Like Saturday, no, it was Monday. I tried to take her school shopping, and it just, like, even shopping, she couldn't handle it. It was just, she was so angry and she hated everything. And then by the end of the day, like, we got to the car and she's crying, and I'm like, Mom and I had drove separate cars, and Mom's car was full of other stuff, so like she couldn't fit in Mom's car, and I just handed Mom my keys, and I was like, drive my car home. I can't deal with her. I'm done for the day. She's all yours.
Like, you take her.
She's your kid now. It's all you.
Oh man.
So, yeah. Whew. Anyway, that's going on in my world. Let's find some more questions to answer.
That's what I was saying. What?
I'll never be able to pronounce that name, but someone asked, if you have more than one direction that your story could go, how do you determine which direction you will write?
Oh, well, this is an interesting one because I feel like there's different advice you could give. I do the thing you probably shouldn't do, according to some people, where I just choose one and plow forward and only decide until I've written it that it was the wrong choice and then go back. Most people don't want to do that. I understand. So I feel like the usual advice is like plot them both out, see like where you think the story would go. If like important things might change if you go one way or the other, figure out which ones you like, or full stream ahead. What do you think, Jess?
I, much like Kate, just pick a road, and that's the hill I'll die on until I get there, and then I'm like, this didn't work out the way I wanted it to. And sometimes you can reuse what didn't work out somewhere else in the story.
Yes.
Or in like a later story with like some different characters.
Yes.
But a lot of times I get to the end and I'm like, yeah, I should have done that other thing I was planning on doing that I didn't do.
Yeah.
And yeah, go back and rewrite it. But it's fine. I've rewritten my high fantasy like 6 times already, so what's one more? One more time will be fine. But Buggy definitely has the right answer. Plan a little bit of both and decide from there. That is the way that it should be done.
Yes, that's what normal writers should do, unless you're crazy like Jess and I. Or dumb. Maybe that's what we are. But, you know, because you think that both of us would have learned at this point. But no.
Derek says to roll dice.
That's a fun one too. I'm definitely a fan for any kind of decision making. I usually do the coin flip to see if like I actually have a reaction one way or the other. So you never know.
I mean, sometimes that is like the answer. Like if you do a coin flip or like roll a die and your brain's like, okay, and like it happens, you're like, cool. Or if it happens, you're like, but that's not the one I want to do.
Yeah, yeah.
That gives you your answer. Yeah. Like, that's not what I wanted to do. Mike says, which has more impact on inspiration / plotting when you take your breaks, listening to music that fits the theme of your story, or a movie, TV show with similar in theme as well? I can't read. Maybe you should read that yourself. I think the question is what has a more impact on inspiration, plotting, listening to music, or TV shows?
So if I was actually on like a full hiatus of a story, I think it would help me more to have a movie or TV show with a similar theme. I actually avoid books, TV shows, movies that are similar-ish to the story I'm writing because I don't want to be too heavily influenced. That's just something I know about myself. So like when I'm writing a young adult contemporary, I, at that time, do not read or watch young adult contemporary things. But if I'm on like a full break from it, or like I'm in a 2-month break from just looking at it, then I find that movies, TV shows, books are super helpful. So
I try not to do it while I'm doing like a first draft because I want all of the original ideas to be mine. But a lot of times when I'm editing, I will read or watch something that is in the same genre because I'll see something that like I really love and I'll have something similar and I'm like, but you know what? They did it so much better than me that I either need to completely change it or do it better.
Right.
Because if it's already been done that well, you either need to do something different or make yours better. Like if it's, you need to close the gap a little bit.
Yeah. Here's the way that I was like reacting to it. I feel like you can't know yourself always. I feel like you're not the best judge of if yours is good enough or not sometimes. So that's why I'm always like, no, keep it. It's fine. I know that after I finish these novellas, which I'm almost done with the third one, the first draft of them at least, I'm going to start binging like romance novels again, just so that I can see like the market sort of thing. And I'm just going to read a whole bunch of them in different ways. And then so when I go back to edit, I'll be like, okay. So like a similar kind of thing, not in a like, I need to make mine all that much more better, but just be like, okay, this is how I could flip this that I didn't do before. This is X or Y.
I'm going to yell at the dog, so I'm going to mute myself so you don't listen to me yelling.
Okay, go for it. Also, James, I know, James has great writing playlist recommendations all the time. So if y'all want some music for your writing, ask James. It is very true. Let me see. Oh, okay. So since we're talking about music, I see that the questions were if anyone listens to music either while writing or do we make soundtracks or playlists for our work in progress. I don't usually do this. I listen to music. I don't always listen to music. So this is where I flip-flop back and forth. It's not a necessity for me, though I do tend to like it. I like more like ambient sounds when I'm writing, or like music without words in it, like kind of like a low-key electronic music. But I have, for 2 separate books, come up with a playlist for them. And I have found that they're super helpful when I've like finished the draft and I'm trying to get into the next draft or the next revision, and I listen to that music again. So I'm debating making that more of a regular thing. Let's see. Jess is not here to give me her answer, so we're just going to pretend. Has she said this before? I'm just going to guess that she does not make playlists. Oh, she's back. I can't see the dogs, but we're going to she'll tell us if we guessed right. I see Athena G says, I was watching Prison Break and some of those characters slipped into my story. Oops. That is exactly why I do not watch the same kind of thing, because I would totally be that person. It's like if I hear something, I accidentally type it sometimes. So I know that I could not do that.
What was the question? What are you guessing about my life on?
The question is, do you make like music playlists for your stories or for your characters?
I used to make playlists for emotions.
Oh, okay.
So like I have like a playlist for battle scenes. I have a playlist for romance or for happy or for sad.
Ooh, okay.
But I don't typically listen to those anymore. Now I listen to ASMRs of Harry Potter stuff or
Yes.
Lord of the Rings or whatever.
Yes.
Or nothing at all, which is typically the answer.
Same. Okay, well, I guess right.
All of the dogs were being crazy and they were like wanting in and wanting out and just...
I fully understand that. Duke is actually laying, I don't know.
Yeah, I see his little butt, I think.
He's yeah, so he's chilling for now, but I'm sure he will interrupt me at some point during this live stream.
We're up to 5 dogs because my sister brought her dog with her as well, which obviously, I mean, the dog couldn't stay at home by itself for 2 months or however long it's going to be. So yeah. I have her. She's here as well. So we're up to 5 dogs and 2 cats now in the house.
So many animals and so many humans.
4 humans, 5 dogs, 2 cats.
That is a full house.
It is a full house. You know what's funny is her dog sleeps with me instead of her. It's hilarious.
He's like, I'm going to stay with Aunt Jess.
I'm going to curl up in this bed. See you later. She sits on my couch at night, like when I'm sitting in here in the office. Like
Uh-huh.
she just sits on the couch, and you'll like see her little head popped up over the side of the couch, and she'll just be looking at me like, "Hi." She's so cute.
Dogs are just the best.
She's so cute.
I see Olha. Please tell me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Olha wants to know, have you written a book before knowing the ending, Jess?
Yes. Sometimes I only know the ending.
Yeah, in this edition, I think I'm finding out, as if I didn't already know, that Jess and I are actually pretty similar in our writing process, I guess, and our whole zero drafting, just plowing forward. And
Except you finish things, and I don't.
What?
Except you finish things, and I don't.
I have more time to finish things, too.
This is true.
I usually do know the ending. Similar to Jess, sometimes I really only know the ending and the beginning. Usually I have like the first scene to start it out with because like I know the character and then I'll know where I want them to end up at the end. But like the middle part for me is always the mystery.
The middle is the worst.
The middle is awful.
It's like just trudging through quicksand.
Yes.
I actually have a future story in my brain that's like a fantasy.
Ooh.
And I know the ending for sure. And the ending is going to be like one of those like major plot twist endings that just like ends on the plot twist and it's like a single story. Like there's nothing coming after that.
Yes.
And so like I've had this in my brain for years, but I can't figure out how to start it.
Interesting.
So it's been in here just floating around for a few years.
Yeah.
One of these days I'm gonna figure it out, but today is not that day.
That's what I similarly, again, because Jess and I are basically twins. I have ideas where they are always here. They're in the back because there's a key thing that I cannot figure out. So I'm always like sort of adding stuff to them. But until I figure out the few key things, they just kind of stay there. I don't bother writing them. I hardly take notes about them. It just stays in the brain.
I think some things like I'll have like a random thought during the day and I'll be like, you know what, that actually makes a lot of sense. And when it's something that clicks like that, I don't have to write it down because it's like forever ingrained in there. Because before, what was there, I find that when things don't make sense, I have to write them down because they need to be there so that I can make sense of it. But once it has clicked and it makes sense, it's just in there forever.
Yes, agreed.
Get out of my brain, Kate.
I know. Actual twins. It's fine.
Get out of my brain. You were in the womb an extra long time.
I
A
know.
little bit of extra time. Grape wants to know how Project Blue 2 is going and if sequel burnout exists.
Ooh, what a great question. I also am so lost in the chat that I can't even find that. But that's a great question. Project Blue 2 I am just now today about to start writing in it again because what I have to go back through is fill in all those connecting scenes that I didn't know before. Does sequel burnout exist? My reasoning for the break, I don't think has anything to do with burnout from the project, even though I had a little bit of burnout from Camp NaNoWriMo. It was just the timing of my other projects. I wanted to finish them after I'd gotten to the stuff I knew. I don't know, though. I'm kind of terrified about this whole sequel and like series thing. I'm very excited. The excitement is more than the fear, but like I am really worried that I'm going to get to like book 4 and be like, I'm done. And then like never want to touch anything in the series again. Like it's an irrational fear, but it's there.
You know, Natalia Lee is doing where she's, every time I try to talk, like I just want to burp. Anyway, where she's doing Pistol Daisy and she is like trying to write all of them before the first one publishes.
That's what I'm doing. Yeah.
and it just is, it's a very interesting thought to me, because it's like, so if you need to do foreshadowing, you could just go back and add it. And if you like, but in the same vein, like, there are masters at this. Like, Susan Dennard is a master at like putting in foreshadowing and plot and things in book 1 that don't matter until book 5. And I want to be that person. I just don't think I'm ever gonna get there.
See, and that's why I don't know a whole lot about Natalia's like process kind of thing. That's why I'm doing it now, is where I'm zero drafting all of the. I had the first one completely done at the point that I was like, I queried it, but then the rest of these I'm just gonna zero draft them, and that's why, because I know 3 main plot points for book 5. So I know how I want the series to end, and I know a couple things that need to happen in it, but I'm worried that I'm the type of person, because I just plow ahead, that I need to write them all out so I can then piece together it actually.
But it's more fun if you just plow ahead like it's fan fiction and change the rules as you go.
See, but I don't want to be that person. That's why. I want to be Susan Dennard. I want people to think when they read my books that I was just a genius and knew what I was doing from the get-go.
Right. I'm not like, what is this? Is she writing fan fiction right now?
Right.
Because that's my life.
Well, and that's why, like, Becca, our friend, Becca C. Smith, she talked about how Becca, in her 3rd book, she wanted to do something that of the Riser saga. She thought of something so cool and it would have been awesome. And then she realized that the rules she'd set up for the world in the first 2 books wouldn't work for her to do this really cool twisty thing in the 3rd book. And she was like, no, but you have to stay with the rules of the world. And I want to have the freedom to do the twisty thing. So the real fear is that I'm going to get into the never ending cycle of like constantly tweaking here to fit here.
Every time you change something in one of the earlier versions or the later versions, you have to go to the other end. And
yes, yeah, that's the fear. But I'm hoping that by documenting it, like maybe I'll not do that.
I know, like, with my high fantasy is the worst for sure, because it's 4 books that I have planned in my head. And like, obviously I have the plot for the first book because it's mostly written. It's in editing right now. And it's on like version 284. And so I started the 2nd book 5 years or so ago, which obviously does not like matter at this point because I'm completely redoing the 1st book. But like book 3 and 4 have like 4 plot points apiece.
Yeah.
And so like I know what needs to happen. I just don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
So I think I've gotten all of the twists down. I think I know all of like the major plot points, the major twists, the things that need to happen are all there. So I feel like as long as you have what you want to happen, like the plots and things that you want to happen, I think that it's okay to just do one at a time.
Well, and that's what I think you're right, because clearly, like traditionally published authors for years and years, and even indie authors have worked that way, where they do one at a time. You write it, and you're editing it, and maybe you're kind of writing the next one, and then you publish, and then it's like there might be some overlap, but it's certainly not the whole series. But I know even from writing this sequel for Project Blue 2. I actually included a plot point that I'd intended for book 3 because I decided it would be better to end book 2 with that plot point and then immediately go into something else. So had I done that, it just would have looked different. And that's why I'm zero drafting them
all. Grape asked me if I plan to traditionally publish or self-publish, and the answer to that is that I don't know. I really traditionally publish, and I feel like that is more out of, not to say that self-published authors are not good, because a lot of my friends are self-published authors and I've read their books and I enjoy them. I have found a lot of self-published work just like on Amazon that I have absolutely loved. But I feel like for me and for my personal self-consciousness that I would need someone in the publishing world to say, like, this is good, for me to actually feel like it was good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just like for my own self-validation, I would want to be traditionally published.
Yeah.
And that may be more of a hybrid thing, because I have stories that I know that no one's ever going to touch, but that I love.
Mm-hmm.
So hybrid may be the way for me. I don't know. I'm not close enough to need to worry about it at this point in my life.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's options. There's a lot of options out there.
There are a lot of options, and that's interesting because I didn't realize, I had always in my head known you as wanting to do traditional publishing. So it's interesting to hear that, like, potentially for some certain stories, you might do self-publishing.
I mean,
is how I feel about it. So, like, I'm like, I understand.
There's just some stories that are like, when you think about, you're like, it's kind of out in left field. And if it wasn't something that I traditionally published myself, I would probably have to publish it under a pen name,
Mm-hmm.
which I may do if I traditionally publish and self-publish anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't know. At this point, I don't have anything done enough that I need to worry about it. So I have plenty of time to think about it. I know either way, I don't think anyone is easier or harder than the other. I think either way, you're still going to have to do marketing. You still have to do all of the groundwork and the footwork. You still have to have editing. You still have to have covers done. And all of that has to be done. And in both instances, it can cost you money out of your own pocket. I don't think one is more right than the other than just sheer, is somebody going to pick it up because it's the right story or not?
Yeah. Well, and I know you touched on feeling like the validation aspect of traditional publishing, and I still have some element of that, only because that one, it's like there was a whole team almost working behind it and not just me. So it's like I'm not the only one who thought this was good. And so that is a very affirming thing. And now obviously once it's at the point where it's out there and readers can decide, like you're saying, it really doesn't matter. But to have other people that I'm not paying or like know, or like beta readers or whatever, say that it's good and good enough to publish, I still think there's something there for me with that too.
Well, and I think it was Colleen Hoover that did it recently, where I think she might have even started out self-published. Don't quote me on that. But she's been traditionally published for a while. And recently she has said that whichever book she had published most recently was going to be her last traditionally published book, that she was going to start self-publishing, because she felt like she would have more control and she would be able to do the things that she wanted to do. And it wasn't that she didn't love her agent or love her publishing companies, but just that she felt like she had a good grasp on what she was doing. And that may be something that I would want to do in the future too. I don't know. Mm-hmm. You use the expertise of the traditional publishing world because, I mean, it's there, you might as well use it. Mm-hmm. And then if you feel like you have things that you want to do that the traditionally published world won't allow you to do, then you self-publish.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
well, and I know that this is my other thing for being a hybrid, is that I think there's pros. I mean, you're saying there's pros and cons to both, but I think there's a lot of pros still to being able to get into these ginormous bookstores and being backed and have your name on like Penguin Random House or something. But those same people might look up my name later and they're not going to care that this book was traditionally published and this one was self-published. Like they're just going to be like, oh, I liked her stuff, I'll get it. And then, you're making more money if you're self-publishing and doing it yourself. And like, there's just things to consider, but it's also one of those that, like Jess was saying, that you don't need to consider until you're at a certain stage also. Like, and who knows how much stuff could change. I feel like the publishing world is like, maybe not it's volatile, but like it's changed so much in the past 10 years that who knows what'll happen in the next 5 or 10.
I think it's definitely on an upswing in like the last 10 years. I think 10 years ago it was definitely down a lot, but I think the last 10 years it has come back up. And I think people are back into physical reading and using their libraries more, at least from what I have seen.
Mm-hmm.
We're still buying everything from Amazon and from Barnes and Noble instead of from indie bookstores.
Mm-hmm.
I try to buy from my indie bookstore a couple times a year. They usually don't carry anything that I read. It's a very small store. They have, I might own more books than they have in the store.
I bet you do.
It's real close. I think they have like 8 bookshelves in the store, but it's a really small store, but they will order in anything that you want. So usually if I'm looking for something, they don't have a large fantasy section, especially high fantasy. And so if it's something that I'm going to order anyway, I will just send them a message and say, hey, can you order me in this book, blah, 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 whatever. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. We'll let you know when it's in. And I go in and I pick it up.
That's nice.
And it's right next door to a coffee shop. And so I get coffee and then I like hang out downtown and it's fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, some people have larger indie stores. And I think if our indie store was larger, I would utilize it more often. Because I like instant gratification. Like I like to walk into the bookstore and pick out a book and buy it and walk away with it. But it's a lot more like adult, and they have a lot of poetry and they have a lot of like real life stuff, nonfiction.
Yeah.
What's it mean when it's not fiction? Nonfiction, that'd be what it's called.
You got it.
I lost it there for a minute, guys. But yeah, they don't have a lot of fiction, and they do have a really big children's section. So that's good, but not a lot of YA or high fantasy.
Yeah.
And it's fine, because like I said, they'll order me whatever I want.
Yeah. And that's nice, because then you're still supporting your local store.
I try.
Yeah. I do see TB Kane says, honestly, I'd be worried about plotting out a whole series that either none get picked up or worse, it gets dropped halfway through the series. That's why I decided for my series, any series that I have planned, I think I'm going to indie publish or self-publish, because I have some fears around the whole series not being able to be published in the way that I want it to be. So I think for standalones, I think for me, traditional publishing is the way to go. But other than that, but that's my own thought process behind it too, and whatever else.
I've kind of had that same thought as well, but my thing is like I want to start trying to publish standalones, because I do have a few standalones. And so I think that's like where I want to start with, because I feel like if you build up a fan base with standalones, you have more people that would be willing to buy your series.
Yeah.
So if you are then publishing the series traditionally, then there would be like a built-in audience.
Yeah.
To pick up. Yeah. You never know what's going to happen. We can make all of these plans and it can all completely fall apart. So
yes. Well, and that's why also, yeah, it's so true.
Doesn't matter what you plan. Life's going to do whatever in the heck it wants, and you just got to learn to deal with it.
That's right. I see Mike is asking, do you get burnt out trying to write 2 or 3 stories at once, all of them being just as exciting as the next, and thinking about them 24/7?
No.
I like being able to jump between stories. I think that actually helps me from getting burnt out on one.
Yep. I think multiple stories, especially if it's multiple genres or multiple point of view, tenses, etc., keep me from being burnt out. I mean, typically it is a nano month that I get burnt out on, and it's not just that it's a lot of writing, but it's a lot of writing the same book. And if I was doing multiple things, I feel like it would be a lot easier. I
just am realizing that that's what it is for me too. I don't know why I didn't realize that before, because I tend to, I'm like, I've had an epiphany. Thank you, Jessica. I always tend to have like an extra project I'm working on, even during nano months. But I think that daily dedicated focus on one project as my main project for an entire month is not something that I usually do. And so I think that's why I get burnt out of it as well. Because I'm like, it's not just that it's my sole focus, but then in the last few years, I've been making daily NaNoWriMo vlogs, and those vlogs are then about that story's progress. So it's like I spend all the time writing in that story and then spend all the time talking about that story. And it ends up just being a lot of one story.
I think for this, like I said, I'm going to be working on 2 different things. So I don't know, should I like do even days one book and odd days another book, or every other time I work on it, should I do a different one? I don't know what I'm going to do. There's definitely some options.
Yes, that is an interesting. It could be, again, because even the best laid plans can go to shit real quick. But like,
I have no idea what's going to happen in November.
That's true too. But I mean, you could go in thinking even and odd, and then you might get halfway through and be like, never mind.
Yes, we are both summer baby. Technically, I'm born in spring because it's June, but I mean, it's summer, right?
Does summer start like late June?
June 21st.
That's crazy. That's wrong. I refuse.
We were talking about it today at work because like when you're in school, you're taught that like December, January, February is winter, and April, May, March is spring, and June, July, August is summer, and September, October, November is fall, and that is not accurate.
Yeah.
So it's because it goes off of the moon cycles, and it's completely wrong. But that's outside.
What a shock.
But yeah, we're born about a month apart. And your birthday's the 14th?
Yes.
Of July, and I'm the 8th of June. So we're fairly close together on the on the calendar. I have my wand. I am like the most idle hand issue. I've been playing with tweezers. I have been playing with pens, my wand, and my Little Pony, and just anything that's in front of me is fair game.
See, I'm over here like I finished my coffee, I finished my chocolate milk, and then I have my water. So I'm playing with stuff too, or I'm just drinking everything, I guess is really what I'm doing.
Soda, hot chocolate, water. It's fine. Totally fine. That is a good point. It's winter there, not summer. If you're in the southern hemisphere, it's winter where you are. It's summer where we are for another month. It was really weird in Ohio today. It was like 80 and overcast and cloudy and rainy. It was wonderful.
It is hot here in Texas.
Apricot Stone. There are a lot of AuthorTubers May, June, July. Like, it's insane. There were like 4 or 5, like the week of my birthday.
Yeah, there were so many of y'all, because I know Brooke and Emily were around that time too, right? And then, because they're born on the same day.
Yeah, and Phoebe as well, I believe.
Yeah.
It was a lot of people, man. I can't keep track.
I know.
That's what the planner's for.
Oh, my chat. I'm so far behind everyone.
Well, stop being behind.
I'm trying.
Damn it. It is weird to imagine winter in July, but like think about December and Christmas being summertime. Just saying, like that's extra weird.
I remember I watched this interview of this NBA player I like, and he's from New Zealand, and he said that he liked having Christmas be in the summer because for him it meant you could then go out and play with all your toys that you just got, all your outside toys, for you can't do that when Christmas is in winter.
Well, you can't get cool big outside toys in winter because then you can't play with them.
Yeah.
And I never had that problem because as a baby who had a summer birthday,
you were like, "It's fine."
both ends. So, you know, I get cool presents in December and cool presents in June, and it worked out fine.
That's true. I know for my summer birthday problems as a kid, it was that all of my friends were out of town on my birthday. And all of the pool parties. Like, that was what it was.
I just seen a question. Michael wants to know, what are some pointers for writing comedy? I don't know.
Ooh. Do you mean like stand up, or what kind of comedy are we talking about?
Sketch comedy.
Yeah, like, and I also don't know that I have any advice. I'm writing what I like to, well, I'm not writing it right now, but a horror comedy spoof, which is my Scooby-Doo meets Princess Bride story. And it just means that I make fun of the characters and I try to make the characters funny. So I don't know that it's like I have any advice on that.
I'm more of a snarky writer comedy than like funny comedy.
Yeah. Snark's good too, though. Snark's great.
I'm a snark. Like, one of my characters like gets stabbed in the side with a knife, and it's like still in there, and so like his love interest pulls it out, and he's like, "Why are you pulling out a knife out of my side?" She's like, "I could have left it in there. Like, would you prefer I leave your wound in it and not heal? And like, I could leave you knifed. That's fine."
Just stay knifed forever.
Stay knifed forever. She was nice. Like, she didn't rip any of his organs on the way back out. I mean,
that's what's important.
Apricot Stone just started a happy planner, and she loves it. Yay!
Woohoo!
Mine's right here. I have, like, actually, it's so sad because I haven't been doing social media this month. My entire social media section of my planner is just like completely empty. I haven't touched it, and it's sad, but that's okay.
No.
There were other questions. Where'd it go? Charlie wants to start a YouTube channel and wants to know what equipment they would need to start.
You really don't need, if you have a phone, if you have a smartphone, you can just use, that's what I think almost all of us started out with, just our camera phones. And then when I started, we still had Maker, and now I use iMovie. So I've almost always used free editing software too. So you theoretically don't need to spend any money.
I have a 5-year-old smartphone. So when I started my channel, I started my channel 2 years ago, so it was a 3-year-old smartphone back then. So I bought, it's a Logitech CP900, I believe. They're like $50. It is a webcam. It plugs into the computer. It's what I'm using right now. And that's what I started filming with. And I didn't have any issues with it. I love this thing. I still use it, obviously, because it's better than my webcam on my laptop.
Mm-hmm.
It does have, it films in 1080p. It's great. I love it. And I was using Windows Movie Maker, which does not exist anymore. So editing software wise, there are some things out there, but there are a lot better things if you have a Mac versus a PC.
Yes, and that's the unfortunate. And when I went to buy a new computer, because before that I only really had a Chromebook laptop, I did decide to buy an Apple because I knew that the editing software was better.
Yeah, I now use, oh my gosh, what am I using? I use Adobe Premiere Pro. I bought it cheap at a Black Friday sale. If you get it like during Black Friday, it's usually like $15 to $20 a month, which is still a lot of money if you're not making any money from your channel. I've put way more money into my channel than I ever should have. I can guarantee you that. I'm on my 3rd camera and my 3rd editing software. So
see, and then I always feel like you have to look at the channel as like a fun hobby. And I've put plenty of money into hobbies.
Yeah.
for. So like, I think it's just whatever amount you're willing to put in for a hobby. That's what.
But like, did I need this to film with? Like, did I need this to film with?
Do we have the same one? Did you get the SL2?
Yeah, I have the SL2.
I'm gonna film real quick. This is us. Hello.
I don't even think my memory card. I haven't filmed all month. I have no idea what's even in there. Like, is it in there? Is it not? I don't know. I had my potato cam originally, which is still floating around here somewhere, which worked just fine, other than when I forgot to turn the microphone on because it has an external microphone. So when you forget to turn that on, it's not fun when you go to edit because there's no microphone, no audio footage. Oh my god, get it together. So I was like, you know what would be great? I should buy this thing, and I bought it refurbished, so it wasn't like crazy expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But did I need it? No. But it's pretty.
But now it's fun, and you got a nice camera, and you can theoretically kinds of things.
I mean, you know, it's fine. It's really fun. Nicole Ford Thomas says she uses DaVinci 16 Resolve, and it's incredible. It's free and has lots of bells and whistles. I started using Adobe Premiere Pro because I don't know how to edit, so I'm like real dumb. And Becca C. Smith. I don't know why, but we both do it every time we talk about her. It's like our friend Becca. She like sent me a little tutorial video on like how to do some stuff on the Adobe Premiere, and I feel like so much better about my life now that like I have like shortcuts and stuff. Also, you could just look this stuff up on the internet. Like, you're on YouTube, you could literally just look it up on YouTube, but it's fine.
Sometimes it helps to have someone you know explain things a certain way, or search through extra like guru.
They know how your brain works.
Yeah.
I will say, anybody who's thinking about starting a channel, you watch a lot of videos from the channel Think Media TV, and that's where I learned about the webcam that I started using. That's where I did my research on the SL2s. That is where I learned how to do video editing, how I learned how to do live streaming. I pretty much learned how to do everything through there, and they have a video on like almost everything if it has to do with posting on YouTube. So if you have questions or something that you want to see, like comparisons on like low, mid, and high budgets of what you can afford and what you should get, what's the best in that price range, they have a lot of stuff there. So
yes, I will
always check them out.
Media.
I like them.
Yeah. Well, I also see Charlie is saying that I use a pen name. Is it good to use an alias on YouTube or my real name? I use a pen name because that's the name I plan to publish under. YouTube was not even like, that was a second consideration. So I figured I would just make the YouTube videos under the same name that I plan to mostly publish under. So if you want a pen name for your work, then you might want to do the same one for your YouTube channel. It's up to you. It all depends.
You should think about it prior to, because I never thought about whether I wanted to use a pen name, and now I'm like just kind of stuck with my name because it's my name.
Yeah. Well, but, I mean, you can always use a pen name. I mean, I plan on having multiple pen names.
Yeah.
Because I'm writing in multiple genres. So it's one of those things that I'm not overly, I don't know, I'm not concerned about it. I figure if I'm talking about my channel, if I tell you I'm going to publish it under a different name, it doesn't really make a difference. It's still me.
It's true. Mike says, do you ever go somewhere else to write when your normal spot burns you out?
That's such a good question, and more on the topic of than what we were talking about. Yeah, actually, I often, just during the day, if I feel like I theoretically could be writing more than I am, but for some reason it's not coming out, that's when I'll go to coffee shops. I love doing that, and I usually save those times either for when I'm already going into town or when I need to get away from this view. Duke, lay down. This dog. Sorry.
I do. I don't write anywhere but at home. I don't take my stuff anywhere. I write here, and I don't think a change of scenery is going to help me any because I'm not used to being out in public like that. So I think that if I tried to do it, it would just make me more nervous and I would get less done.
I feel like I always think it's interesting because as an introvert, that's the level of people I like having, where it's like I'm not really necessarily interacting, I'm more watching. So I still feel like I'm by myself with my like, headphones in and writing, but I can still observe people. So it hasn't ever felt like a nerve-wracking thing to me as much. So I find that interesting, but I guess that's also like I'm more used to doing it. And so,
I'm reading people talking about writing with pen names.
Yeah. Chelsea. Kate is my middle name. Kavanaugh is not
related at all.
Nope. So, and I do have one of my other pen names already picked out.
I have, because my last name is so long, I have chosen other like pen names that I would use that I would be okay with.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's kind of like part of the traditional publishing, which people are becoming a lot more open about names now than they ever were before. I mean, think about how many names you see on books in the past 3 or 4 years that you can't even pronounce.
Yeah.
Whereas before they would have made you write under a pen name because they're like, no one can read that. You need a real name.
Yeah.
Which is a horrible thing to say because their name's real. It's their name.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's as much of a problem now as it used to be. But I feel like sometimes if your name is too common or if it's too long or if it just doesn't have like the right ring to it, things like that, I think that you could change it. So I have some things in my brain that I would use if a traditionally published company was like, your name's not horrible, but it is at the end of the alphabet and it's like 12 letters long. Like maybe we could go something shorter or closer to the beginning of the alphabet. Because if you're closer to the beginning of the alphabet, then you're closer to the beginning of the bookshelf.
That is an interesting thing. I've also seen people choose names based off of like an author that they really liked and wanting to be next to them on the bookshelf. And I thought that was fascinating.
I'm doing that from now on.
You're like, decided.
Decided. I'm going to change my last name to Clary so I can be next to Cassandra Clare.
Like, it's perfect.
I'm doing it right now. Like, just going to go change my name. Legally doing it. Headed to the courthouse right now.
Yes.
I don't even know if they would be next to each other, but I feel like it's close enough.
I think so. Yeah. As close as you can get.
As close as I'm getting.
Yeah. I do see Jacob asking, should you use a pen name for every genre? You don't theoretically need to use pen names at all. So that's kind of up to you. And also some genres are close enough that for my personal opinion on things, I don't think you need to. But like I'm writing young adult stuff under one name and then like my romance that has more sex in it under a different name because those are far enough away and some people feel weirdly about sex. So we got a little division there.
Yeah, I think if you write mid-grade and YA, that being under the same pen name would be okay. But I think when you're writing stuff that is very mild and vanilla versus things with sex scenes in it, that you should have a separate name because you don't want some kid that's like 13 or 14 that really enjoys your YA to go pick up another book under your name and then start reading it and be like, oh, that's
not what I
was going for.
Yes.
Or like, Mom, what does this mean? And then the mom's like, where did you hear that?
Yes.
It's not a bad option.
Yeah. I see S.J. Raymond, who I actually met in person the other day when I was in San Antonio. Hi, S.J. Says that because my first and last name are relatively long when put together, I just started putting S.J. on all the comics I published. So like those are other considerations And I know like Becca had to add in her middle initial because Becca Smith is too common, which you'd already kind of talked about. Like, it's up to you. It's up to, as it turns out, if you search stuff, like I know Stephen King, there's that one author who's also named Stephen King and tried to publish stuff. And people were like, you should not be publishing under your real name because too bad there's already a super famous other Stephen King kind of thing. And there was backlash about that. So it's tough.
It is. And I think one thing that they recommend, and it's the same with book titles, is that before you choose a pen name or whether you want to go with your real name or a book title, to just do like a quick Google search and see what comes up.
Yeah.
And if you get another author that writes in the same genre as you should probably pick something different. If you come up with a book title and there's 87 other books with that same title, you should probably come up with something different.
Yep.
But you do you.
Yeah. I see Pros and Tea says, I want to do both straight and gay romance, but I'm not sure if I should use different pen names because I don't want people picking up the wrong book and being very unhappy. So that is up to, I'm planning on keeping the same pen name when I'm writing all sorts of different kind of romance connections.
Yes.
So, and that's just how I feel about it.
I think if I don't write sex scenes because that's not my jam, but if I did, I would write the same regardless of, like, under the same name, regardless of who the couple involved. I think the only way I would do it differently was if I was writing sex scenes versus not. Yeah.
I feel like for me, that's where the line is too. And also, depending on what you name the characters, it could potentially be obvious what the reader is getting into anyways. So,
I mean, I am one of those people that kind of feels like I would be okay with trigger warnings in books. And I feel like, not that should ever be a trigger warning, because I don't think that homophobia should be a trigger. But, like, I feel like the world could benefit from books having, like, a page at the beginning or at the back of the book that's like, this book includes all of these things. And it would give you an idea if it was a better idea if it was a book you wanted to read or not.
I saw that whole, like, Twitter conversation where it was like, we should, rather than putting, we should treat it like we do movies and TV shows, where it's like, instead of being like trigger warnings, potentially, it's more like, this is rated this because of this, and this.
Right.
And then that way.
I've been saying that for years. Like, I wish instead of having like mid-grade, YA, adult, new adult, if that's even really a thing, instead of having that, it should be based off of like movie ratings or video game ratings. Like, everything else is literally rated and it's a minimum. Like, the minimum of age 14, a minimum of the age 17, a minimum of the age 6. Like, books cut you off. Like, books are like, YA is only for 13 to 16. And I'm like, but 16-year-olds are not adults. So how are they young adults? Like, a young adult to me is 18. You are brand new. You're a brand new adult. I don't understand the rating system. It does not make sense to me. And we need to overhaul it as a whole. We should revolt tomorrow.
Yes. I think we should change the system.
Let's do it. Just like, theoretically, self-published authors could change the system. Because as a self-published author, you can rate it whatever you want. And if self-publishing did it, maybe traditionally publishing would do it too.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like traditional publishing is slower to change. So if there was a movement within self-publishing to do stuff, and I know Becca has said that on a book she's planning on publishing in the future, she's going to include, like, in the description being like, hey, warning for this. And I see, like, Bug is saying she's planning on including a trigger warning for my work in progress because a big recurring event is violence against a child, and I know a lot of people don't want to read that. Yeah. And I feel like that would help to solve the problem.
Right. And Michael says young adult is like TV 13 or PG 13. But the difference is that, like, young adult has a cap. Like, the oldest you can be to read YA is 17. It starts like 13 to 17. Whereas PG 13 just means anyone under 13 should have parental guidance.
Yeah.
Or anyone under 14 should have parental guidance.
But
which means
everyone's free to enjoy.
Everyone else above that age is free to enjoy.
Yeah.
Like, I can watch anything on the Disney Channel that's PG-13. And, I mean, okay, somebody's probably going to judge me for watching the Disney Channel at 32. That's fine. But, like, you can't walk into a bookstore at my age and go to the YA section without, like, teens and parents staring you down. And it's like, maybe I'm here buying a book for my niece who's 12. But also, I'm here buying a book for me, so get over it.
Yeah, I feel like that's such the weird thing. I feel like TV and movies, maybe because more people watch TV and movies than people read regularly, but I feel like there's such a stigma attached to reading something that's not in your age range. And I think that's ridiculous. So I do agree that it would be better to have the rating be like, you have to be this and up, or this and up, rather than being like, this is for children and no adults allowed.
It's really funny because, like, I get less stigma for reading middle grade than I do for reading YA. And I'm like, well, middle grade's for like 9 to 13-year-olds, and you're okay with me reading that?
I know. I feel like there is. Or if, like, I want to read a classic children's novel, everyone's like, yeah, it's great. Like, that's fine. But yeah, young adult for some reason is.
The second you pull out a YA romance, the whole world flips its shit.
How dare you? Also, the whole, like, really what they're saying is like, that's for girls, so that's bad. And it's like, oh my God. So
I don't read a lot of YA contemporary, though. I read like YA fantasy, and like even as it is always my example, Susan Dennard stories are considered YA, and they have slavery and racism and sexism and just all of these really heavy topics. But because the characters are young, it's considered YA.
Yeah, and the weird part is there's other, like, in quotes, adult fantasy. There's some fantasy that does get put into the adult fantasy section that actually has characters that are, like, I don't have it with me, but like Red Rising, I'm pretty sure the character is actually like 16 or something, dealing with all these adult problems, much like Susan Dennard's stories, because they're dealing with adult problems. And also because we like to kill off parents in young adult fantasy. And so it's like, why does one get put in an adult section more often? And why is one young adult more often? And why do we even need to have this thing? But also young adult, I was listening to a podcast and I'd forgotten that young adult is such a new category. Like, and I've heard that that's why new adult is such a fail, is because bookstores don't want to put a new adult section in their, like, in their bookstore, because they'd have to shuffle everything and there's not enough room and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, so that's what's driving publishing. And I think that's dumb, but I get it, I guess.
Sarah J. Maas's books, they do have graphic sex scenes, but those are actually adult. They're just shelved as YA because they sell better as YA. And that's been one of the biggest controversies in the entire, like, how to differentiate between YA and adult, because her books were written as adult stories. They were originally marketed as adult stories, and when the stores started putting them out on shelves, they put them on YA shelves because they knew they would sell better there.
Yeah.
And that is why they ended up where they did.
Yeah, which is crazy. And that's why, like, I see Kay Wright's books is saying that she's annoyed that new adult is such a fail, because I want to write clearly college age characters. Same. And also, like, I've seen agents be like, well, if you're going to write new adult, you could still query me as a young adult agent, but we'll probably age them down. And I'm just like,
but then they're not in college anymore.
Like, that's the other thing. I'm like, but they're the reason that they're in college. Yeah.
It's college age is so hard to write because they're not really dealing with adult problems. I mean, not all of them, but you know, at that point you're still like living off of tuition and you are doing room and board, and it's not all kids aren't that way, but a lot of them are. And so it is more childlike, but then they're like, but your character can't be 19. And I'm like, but as a sophomore in college,
They would be 19.
there were dudes in my high school that were 19 before we graduated high school.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, you're in high school and you're 19, but suddenly you can't be in the YA category anymore. Someone said, I lost it. I don't know word for word where it is. There it is. Whereas Red, White, and Royal Blue in this whole thing, because that book gets steamy AF. I haven't read it yet, but I know it does. I bought it. It's in YA, but I know that it's got sex scenes in it, and so should it be considered YA? It has a cartoon cover, for crying out loud.
Yeah, well, I also remember like Judy Blume and Meg Cabot were writing like talking about sex in their young adult novels before that was, because that had been like so taboo. And it's like young adults have sex too. So like they do need to be in the books that are going to have that. And it's just, why are we drawing the line certain places for certain books and not in others? And why is there a line? And yeah, the whole thing's a mess.
Fancy Hippo says, I would love to see tags on the backs of books. Like this book has a lot of horses, magic, wizards, falling in love. Just something that gets me to know super quick if I'm interested. Same.
I think that would be so, I can see that happening on Amazon in a not too distant future, where you can just sort by the tags and see instead.
I mean, tags are so common in everything else that we do.
Else we're so
as a society. So like, why can't we like do some tags in other stuff and just like search for books? I want to find books that have witches in them. It's really hard to find sometimes. So I would just want to search the tag of witches at a bookstore so that I don't get everything that has to do with witches forever.
Yes.
Forever. Every time I find like a witchy book, I'm like, yes. I'm still reading The Babysitter's Coven. I'm like 50% and 40. I don't know. I haven't read anything all month, so I don't know. I haven't touched it this month.
Yeah.
I have 4 books I need to read by the end of the month because they're all September releases. I have another book that was a July release that I haven't read yet. It's not pretty in my world with my arcs, but a lot of them are witchy books. So like 1, 2, 3. I think 3 of the 5 are witches. One's mermaid, and I can't remember what the other one is right now off the top of my head. So I got a nice collection. I just need to sit down and read them.
I am really excited to hear what you think of The Babysitter's Coven when you finish, and if I should read that next.
It's interesting.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm like 50% in, and I just got to like the girls kind of figuring out who they are.
Also, this is a completely separate question, but you mentioning mermaids reminded me that when I had been querying back in like March or something, I remember distinctly reading one agent who was like, don't send me mermaid stuff. And I remember thinking it was such a specific thing, but I have something similar with like fae and fairy stuff, where it's like every single time I've tried to read anything with that, I have not liked it. And like, it just doesn't interest me. So do you have something like that where it's a very specific like thing that you're just like inexplicably not into?
Okay, but first I need to know, have you read The Cruel Prince?
I have not, but I read other Holly Black stuff and I didn't like it. I thought her writing is really beautiful, and this was her other fae stuff.
The fae series, yeah.
Yeah, and I just didn't like it, so I haven't bothered. I haven't been interested to try it because I'm like, it's not only the same thing that I don't like, it's the same author, and I think her writing is genuinely beautiful. I just didn't like it. So
How did you like the fairy tale in comparison to The Coldest Girl in Cold Town?
I never finished The Coldest Girl in Cold Town.
Well, darn it. I was trying to go on a tangent. Okay, fine. I can't solve that problem anyway. Well, I think I know you don't enjoy fairies, but I think you would enjoy Natalia Lee's book on fairies. The Song of the Dryad, because it is fae, but it's written very differently than anything else that I've read that's fae.
Okay.
Just throwing that out there. Yeah. Anyway, is there anything that makes me go, oh my god, I hate this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that there's anything that's just like, I mean, the one thing that always I have learned has always made me crazy is just time hopping.
Oh.
Like when you're telling the story, like a flashbacks, but when you're reading the narrative and it goes from like point A and then you're back in history for like 6 chapters and then you're back to the future and then you go 3 years ahead and then you're back in the back past again and then you're here, and even when they're well written, like And I Darken by Kirsten White, I couldn't finish it because I can't. So that's the thing, like with books, that if I know it time hops like that, I'm automatically out.
Same. And I'm thinking it's because like maybe I'm too dumb to follow it. Like if you're making reading that hard for me to understand where the story is at, that's when I'm out. But also I don't like time travel a whole lot in movies or TV shows either. That's a separate thing than the time hopping, but time travel, it's because I can never get a good explanation on how it works, or like the ones where it's like you're bending the past and then the future is affected. I've never read one or seen one that I'm like, this makes sense to me.
Now, the most recent Marvel movie, the Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
The time travel in that made sense to me.
I liked that one.
Because it made sense. Like, even what you do in the past affects the future, but also not really, because you have to get back to that same point in the future to change the past. Otherwise, you would have never have went to the past to change the future.
So here's the thing. That's when I just take you know what? I'm just going to ignore any physics or whatever of this. This is when I have to take steps back. So like, I still enjoyed it because I genuinely enjoy Marvel movies, but like there were times in that movie, even like the whole Captain America thing at the end where I was like, but hold on, I have a question. Like I really didn't conceptually get it, but I'm willing to be like, it's fine. For the story, I'm still in it kind of thing.
Well, it's like, so how did no one know he was around all this time?
Yeah, how?
I told him.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It does not, to me, make sense. I don't get it.
I have questions. Well, the thing is that they have said that because of what happened with the Tesseract in the original Avengers timeline where Loki escaped, that would make some changes in the rest of the history of getting everything back to where it goes. So, because they were able to get all of the stones back to where they took them from, but that one, its outcome changed. So they said that that's going to open up another timeline that will affect the future.
Yeah, this is the thing. You can tell me that and I'll say sure, and then I'll be done with it. And that's how I have to do it in order to enjoy it. But like the problem with books is that like you actually have words more often to explain it to me. So when you don't properly explain it, like I'm seeing people talking about the time turners in Harry Potter, like they had to destroy them in the 5th book because she'd worked herself into such a corner. And it doesn't make sense really given the history of everything up until that point. So it's just kind of one of those where it's like, yeah, it just doesn't work. In my mind, I've never read anything where it works. So.
But they didn't destroy them all.
Oh, I guess that's true. Did they not?
I mean, if you've read the 8th Harry Potter book.
I didn't. Oh, that whole cursed child. No, I purposely avoided that because everyone told me it was terrible and that I would get mad at it. So I forgot about that. That is how that whole thing works, right? Like that's the premise.
Yeah, time turner.
Yeah, that's dumb. I don't want to. No, I'm good. Never.
I mean, come on, you couldn't just take the time turner and go back to, like, you knew where Voldemort would be and where when he would be there, and he was going to try to kill baby Harry, and like you couldn't just go back in time and stop that from happening, and it would be over.
Yeah, we all know. Yeah,
it's okay to use them for traveling back in time to take extra classes. Use it to kill off the most evil wizard of all time.
Yeah, that's dumb. Also, this is not related. I'm reading Mike's question.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's we both were just like, let's rage for a little bit. But Mike asks, do you leave Easter eggs in your stories that connect beyond the book or series that could be in the same universe or time period as other stories you've written? So I do for some, because I think that's fun, but also what I want to do is that a few of us have talked about like an inside joke we have, and I want to find a way to fit that in. And it would be so cool if we could all fit it in.
It's going to be there.
So I think that that's great. And I do like doing it. And like for my contemporary, I have an idea for all the contemporaries to have like one phrase. And then that way people who've read the other stories can be like, ha ha ha. So yes, I think those are fun. Everyone freaking out about Cursed Child. Hard agree.
I'm sorry I brought it up. Okay. I just like didn't Steve kiss like Peggy's niece or something in one of the movies? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the part. None of it. It does not. There were other stuff. That's the one that sticks out to me only because it was at the end. But I think there were other stuff in that movie where I was just like, but I don't get how this would work. And again, how much of that, and they tried to explain it, where they're like, no, that works in, that's just in movies, but like here, this is how it actually works. And I was like, okay, I get that you're trying. So.
Michael asked a question. How do I stay motivated to finish writing? Every time I write something, I always have big gaps where I don't know what to write. Have you learned ways to overcome that with Project Purple?
Big gaps. So Project Purple actually is mostly done. Actually, I'm going to start working on the 4th draft pretty soon, as soon as I finish these novellas. Because I need to see if the final scenes make sense after all, since I added them in. I feel like since I don't often know the middle of things, I do have big gaps where I don't know what to write, but that's when I go back and actually like sort of attempt an outline and flesh those out. And if I am still stuck and don't know what to write, that's when I just like let the project rest and hope the answer comes to me. So, what about you, Jess?
I don't know. I'm not good at filling in the gaps and things because I haven't really finished anything yet. So I'm working on it, people.
How do you stay motivated to write? Either during the camps or Nano or just whenever?
I don't stay motivated to write. I mean, you asked the question. That's the honest truth. Like, I don't, and that's why I'm trying to create a writing routine because I don't stay motivated. Mm-hmm. There's so much going on in my world. And even when I am not dealing with everything that I'm dealing with right now, I just like, I have a life and I don't prioritize writing. And so it's not a priority. So it doesn't get done all the time. So
yes,
I'm working on it. Trying to be better because all of my friends are finishing books and publishing them and getting book covers and I'm not.
Jess is like, I'm ready.
I feel left out.
You're going to know how to do so much though by the time it's your turn. Like that's what I think. If you do decide to self or trad or whatever, and then you're going to have people who can read over your query for you.
Like, make friends early, guys. Don't wait until you're ready to publish a book to make writing friends.
That's good advice. Make all the friends. Great Fry talking about how they did Sharon dirty. Agreed. So agreed.
Listen, I love Agent 13. Like, she's my favorite. But I don't know. I think it's like did you ever watch the Agent Carter, like
I
the
did
TV?
not watch that series.
I watched the TV show, and it, like, Peggy was okay in the movie, but, like, watching her in the TV show, like, I love her so freaking much. Like, just Haley Atwell's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I have so much love for her.
I feel like I heard such great things from literally everyone about that show. So I'm so curious why that one was canceled and like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which took like 4 seasons to get good.
Well, the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was really good, and then it went weird. It's cost-wise because Agent Carter is set in the 40s, so all of the sets had to be built, all of the cars and the costuming and everything was just so much more expensive to do than something futuristic that is already, they do futuristic stuff all the time. Whereas,
Yeah. That's okay. Okay.
That is the most of the reasoning that I was given, like, through research, trying to figure out what was going on and why.
Yeah. Okay.
I love Agent Carter, and I wish they would have found a way to, like, add it into the world somewhere else. But I also loved Inhumans, and no one else liked that. So.
Oh, I never watched that one.
I loved it. It was great. It was a good storyline. I liked it.
I
like everything, and people don't like it.
Like, I just want this stuff still.
I just want it to keep happening.
Honing to Own It asks, do you have tips for documenting writing in a notebook? I don't know what you mean about documenting writing.
Do you mean like keeping track of when you write, or what you're writing, or purple hippos? I don't know. You let me know and I'll answer the question.
Yeah, because Jess has a really cool system because you track your sprints, right? And then you also track what days you've written in your planner.
When I remember to fill out my planner, which is kind of a key thing. Somewhere in here, I have, it's in this spot over here. So, like, I have this Did I Write Today section, which you can tell I don't fill out very often. Because I'm a horrible human. It's fine. Which basically is just like to keep track of like if I wrote at all and how much I wrote. And I also have like a section for revisions. I did like the first 3 days in July and haven't touched it since. I also have, what else did I use? I did this thing. Get back here. I had this for Nano. Woo. Where I kept track of how many words I wrote per day, and then added up my weeks, and then added up my total, and filled in things.
I loved your Camp Nano tracker.
My Camp Nano tracker is like my favorite thing ever. I do really enjoy that. And then I use my checklists for sprint tracking.
See,
just like how long the sprint was and how many words I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And now, because I'm doing the, like, trying to get into a writing routine, if I can find it in here, maybe one year I'll find it. So, like, my middle section, in here, I have my days of the week, because I'm trying to write 2 days during the week each week, and then 4 hours on the weekend. So I have bubbles to fill in if I completed my goal.
I like that. See, and that's what I am not nearly as fancy, and I'm not very good with keeping track of bullet journals or anything like that, or having like trackers, even though I think they look so cool. So I feel like Jess is the way to go with that one.
Because Charlie asked, what's the best brand of bullet journal to go for with dotted pages and value for money? I have tried bullet journaling. And if you plan on doing, what's the word I'm looking for? If you plan on using it as like a journal, like a planner with like schedules, like a week calendar, a calendar. If you're planning on using it for a calendar as well as just keeping track of other things. I don't really like bullet journals for that, and simply because it takes so much time to fill out your calendar every month and every week that it just is too time consuming for me, because I would draw the same weekly layout every week. So that was when I started using the Carpe Diem system, which is a 6-binder system. I think it's a six ring binder system. Can't remember. Haven't used it for a couple of years. Now I use Happy Planner. I have some videos on my channel. I think 3. I have a new one that I just did last month or the month before on how I'm using this baby. But bullet journal wise, you can get a decent bullet journal that doesn't bleed through, like at Walmart or Staples or Office Max. You can buy the Electrum, but they're like $50, and that's excessive.
Yeah. Or you can search Amazon. Like, I know I got mine off Amazon. I don't know what brand it is. Lemome, but I don't use it as, and it's the dotted one, but I don't use it that way either. So.
Well, and that's the thing is like, the reason why I started using the Happy Planner is because it has like the rings on the side, and they sell dot grid paper, line grid paper, plain line paper, 87,000 different types of paper. And so.
Yeah. I see that Mike asks, have you ever considered writing short story collections to gain traction with publishers so your other stories to follow are more likely to be published? So short stories are actually kind of hard to get published. Even collections, that's it's almost an entirely separate thing. It's kind of like as different as poetry is from novel writing. In terms of the publication of it, I mean. So I don't actually know. I feel like publication, it all comes down to if the thing sells. So if your short story collection sold super well, then it would be a bonus, and I'm sure they'd consider that if you wanted to sell novels later. But ultimately, I wouldn't do short stories in order to sell novels. Like, I don't know that would actually work. But standalones, I'm seeing someone ask that, like what Jess was saying, build up some standalone novels and try and publish those first, so that then when you try and publish a series, you'll have more people interested. I think that's still a good strategy.
Yes, Sarah, a bullet journal is, you can use anything for a bullet journal, but most people use a dot grid, which is the dots, as a bullet journal. But it's the way that you do the journaling more so than the actual book itself.
Yeah, and bullet journaling, when whoever came up with it first, was like a very easy, simplistic sort of system that's kind of taken on a life of its own. So you can make it simple if you want to. And now people use bullet journaling and have really pretty spreads, and that's like a different thing almost than what it started as. But you can just Wikipedia that or Google it, and you'll find like a history kind of thing. And it is really interesting.
It's really just kind of like a way to manage tasks.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I have 5 tasks, and then you have a system for moving the task to the next day or achieving it and whatever. So,
but now we do them like artistically and beautifully, and decorate it with stickers and color and highlighters and markers and pens and whatever else we could think of.
Yes. I see Great Fry asked, oh, it jumped. Does anyone here have experience trying to build an audience on Wattpad? That's something I've been considering. I have no experience, and I would love to talk with someone who does Wattpad, because I think it's fascinating, and I'd be interested in maybe trying something in the future with it, but that's not what I've done. I have no experience, so.
back to my own personal hero, Susan Dennard.
Yes.
I haven't read it yet because I am a horrible human being, but she is publishing a story on Wattpad.
I know.
Called The Executioners 3. And it's something that she said is just really weird and it will never be able to be traditionally published. So it's just something as like a bonus for her fans. Which Susan is also doing a choose your own adventure story on Twitter. It's been going on for like a month now. It started just randomly when she was on a layover on a flight. And so sometimes multiple times a day, and sometimes like just every couple of days, she does like a 2-tweet question. And at the bottom, there's a poll, and you choose whichever poll, and whatever the majority is, that's where the story moves to next. It's been a fun time.
Yeah, I feel like Susan Dennard is one of the like top people in my mind for creatively building an audience. Like, she's very smart in how she's doing it, because I feel like she, by just doing these awesome things, by publishing a story on Wattpad, by doing the choose your own adventure, by doing a bunch of her free resources for writing, like, you're building an audience that might eventually read your books or support you in some way that would not have known of her
otherwise.
YA fantasy stuff, you know? Yeah. So, and she's so genius with it, because there's few people who are potentially willing or able to put in the time to do this other stuff. So anyways, I think she's cool and just knows her and has been a fan, kind of thing.
Like, as I say, my own personal hero. I love her. I have way too many copies of her books, and she has new covers coming out for the first 2 books of the Witchland series. So obviously I have to have those. So I'm going to be up to like 4 copies. I don't know. It's a lot. It's anyway.
Yes. Well, we are at the like 4 minutes until we've been at 2 hours. So again, Jess and I can talk for forever.
But we highly recommend that we don't.
Yes. So if y'all have any final questions, topics of conversation, whatever else. Also, I'm sure Duke will be ready for his WALK in a bit. So I got to spell it out for him. So let's see. Everyone talking about Wattpad, which is awesome. I still need to learn more. So hit me up on Instagram, people. Tell me about your Wattpad experience. Maybe I'll put something so that people can tell me about it.
Do a question on your story.
Yeah, like
my story went way wonky today. It like deleted 2 in the middle and then kept going, and it was just like a 20-second delay. Yeah. Like, it would pause at the end and the voice would keep going, and I'm like, what?
Like, what is happening?
I had to delete like 10 of them. Like, what is going on with this thing?
Yeah.
It was a fun time.
We're just both squinting at the screen.
No, we don't do that.
Mike asks if we've ever tried to actually draw part of our world that we're writing in order to get through that chapter. I have never, but I did find Phoebe Wood Writes introduced me to a software, which I'm now blanking on the name of, but it's like you can build a map of your world. And I think I'm going to take a day or 2, either during Preptober, or like something coming up where I'm actually going to build stuff out, because I think that would be a cool way to like visualize it.
It's Incarnate.
You got it.
I'm going to spell it.
It's still smart.
I have it written down from when we talked about it in our other chat. Like, it's on a post-it note on my computer screen.
Yeah.
I did a tag that has never made to being posted, and it's an AuthorTube art tag. I don't know, I can't remember the name of it, but it was by Laura at Trope Trinity Trilogy, and so I did actually write part of my story into like a scene, and So there's
That's
that.
fascinating.
It wasn't really to make to clear my head up about anything or to try to figure something out, but I did draw part of my thing. So yeah.
Yeah.
Someone just asked, is Wattpad only for fanfic writers? Wattpad is, I think, majorly original stories.
Yeah, I think so too. But don't
I don't know that they do fanfiction on Wattpad, but I could be wrong because I have been wrong many times.
For some reason, I was under the impression that they do both on Wattpad, but I could be wrong about that too. So,
Okay.
we're not experts.
Sarah says it's for all kinds of authors, though it does mostly have a lot of fanfic.
Okay.
See, somebody knew the answer. It wasn't us, but somebody knew the answer.
This is why we all do this together.
This is why we have friends.
Yes. Well, okay, my screen is telling me that we have been chatting for 2 hours, and I just put the pepperoni outside, and I'm sure he's ready to go on his walk. So I think it is time to wrap this up. But if you guys have any particular topics you want us to chat about in the next time, it will be on Jess's channel, which if you don't know who Jess is or know what her channel is, it is linked down below, or you can search Jessica Williamson. So thank you, Jess, for doing this with me. Thank you guys for attending.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say? You're like, no.
I don't know.
All right, guys. We will see you all in future videos. Bye.